One of the things I've got into over the last year is playing pickleball. I had a pretty good match last night with Larry Fitzgerald, Boris Diaw, and Elliot Kobo. Boris happened to be in town, so it was kind of good to catch up with him yesterday. Watch him and Ellie play one-on-one last night against each other. I had to referee finally after a while because it almost turned into a fight. It was a combination of WWE wrestling and basketball.
Love it.
Boris kept trying to plow into him. He probably had 75 pounds on him. And, with the fouls and the this and the that, and half the yelling was in French, and I couldn't understand half of it. But anyway, it was a sight to be seen.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Outlet Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Smith, and today our guest is the Suns and Mercury managing partner, Robert Sarver. Robert, thank you for your time. How are you doing right now?
I'm doing okay. I mean, these are obviously challenging times for everybody out there, but, that's a time where, you got to step up, especially in leadership and provide direction and provide hope and, just here trying to support the organization as best I can. And, during some tough times, sometimes good ideas come out and can bring out the best of people.
Yeah, and this is a tough time for a lot of people, but behind the scenes within our organization, things are moving forward at a rapid pace with the transformation of Talking Stick Resort Arena and the building of the Performance Center. So give us an update on the arena transformation.
Sure. Well, I mean, between both projects, we're in the middle of a $300 million investment in our franchise and in the community. So the construction is pretty exciting. I'd say maybe the only benefit of COVID-19 was we got to start the construction on the arena a month early. And as many of you saw from some of the video that took place the other day, a lot has taken place. Fortunately, the construction's gone pretty smoothly. We haven't had too many major bumps in the road. There's been some supply chain disruption with manufacturing of certain things with different places. So we've had to be pretty fluid, but we've got a dedicated team. We've been creative. We've taken our whole engineering department and put them to work on this construction site, as well as working at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum, getting that place ready for our players that have been working out there. We have a lot going on, and our people have been pretty active, even if it's been digitally or on Zoom meetings, things like that. Been pretty engaged.
So you talked about the silver lining there of COVID-19 being able to move some of that construction up. So in speaking of the arena, what are some of the things that you were able to get done faster or are planning to get done faster because of that move-up date?
Right, yeah, that's a good question. So for one, we get a chance to start early so we can see if there's any surprises. So to the degree we have had some minor surprises, we've been able to have extra days in order to get that done. So anytime you are doing a remodeling, part of it is through the demolition process, you get a chance to see what's actually there. And since the building was built 28 years ago, sometimes you get a few surprises. So getting an early start helps that. In addition, we're going to be able to finish a few more things. So we are going to be able to finish the main concourse. We're going to be able to finish that off this season. And we are working right now to finish the upper level concourse and food court for next season. We planned on doing the suite levels the following year, both suite levels, but there's a few things we're able to put in there, I think, this year, including a country western club and expansion of our theater boxes by 6.
Nice. So that's quite a bit that you guys have actually been able to move up. And
correct.
Is there anticipation that maybe even more could be moved up depending on the state of the NBA and when next season does start?
No, I mean, that's kind of anticipating that the season's going to start later than traditional. We haven't decided exactly when it's going to start, but I believe it will start later than it would traditionally start. And so it's allowed us to do more. I mean, we're going to have, I'd say, about 70% of the renovation of the arena done for next season versus originally about 50%.
Something I'm sure all of our Suns fans will enjoy. But within the fan base, are you looking at design elements differently, knowing that the fan experience might be a little bit different for a few years to come due to the pandemic?
Just from the hygiene standpoint and maybe how we prepare and serve food, things like that we are. But in general, one of the keys for this arena renovation was to make sure there were a lot more clubs and opportunities for every fan to experience. And so that's been a key part of this. And I think, all the fans are going to get a chance to enjoy the bowl, which is going to be all new seating, new sound system, lighting, new scoreboard, LED bands. And in addition, getting in and out of the upper bowl, fans will be able to experience a lot of different clubs. They'll be able to go to the Country Western Bar, they're going to be able to have a new food court available, and they're going to be able to take advantage of the big Pavilion bar here in the entry, which will have an 8,500 square foot screen and kind of be, I would say, the best sports bar in town. So we've created a lot of flexibility, so no matter where you're sitting, you get a chance to experience a number of our different clubs.
What do you think is going to be your favorite new space within the arena?
I would say kind of the pavilion view when you walk in, getting a chance to see in the court and have the pavilion. You know, we used to take the tickets when you are walking in the bowl. Now we're going to take the tickets when you enter the pavilion. So the pavilion will actually be part of the arena, and that'll kind of be our Grand Central Station meeting place. And I think that'll be the signature location, you know, and that'll be great because everyone can experience it.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's move over to the Performance Center, the Phoenix Suns and Mercury new practice facility. What is an update on the progress of that?
Yeah, the Performance Center stayed pretty close to schedule. You know, again, we've had a few procurement issues with stuff that's been made overseas, that we had to reselect some things and make a few changes here and there, but I believe by Labor Day, it'll be finished.
Okay, and up and running, having all the players able to come in?
Yeah, players be able to go in there and work out. It's on track. It's moving well. I mean, fortunately in our market, construction has been, you know, kind of deemed an essential activity, and so folks have been going and haven't stopped since, and it's moving on schedule.
When was the last time you visited the Performance Center? Does it look completely different than the previous visit you had?
No, I'm there every day.
Okay.
Yeah, so between that project and this project, I'm pretty much here both every day running both jobs. The roof is getting finished. If you drive by it, you can see the exterior being put on, the metal skin all around. Most of the windows are put in. It's coming along pretty good.
All right, what can you tell us about some of the details of what will be inside that Performance Center, both from a technology and basketball analytics side, and then as well as an entertainment and just space for the players to relax and enjoy themselves?
Yeah, well, the facility's designed to keep the players there as long as possible. More time they spend working out, the more time they spend with each other, that leads to, you know, better team performance and better individual performance. And it was also built around technology. We're working with a couple technology partners to put the latest, not only training and conditioning technology in the building, but also tracking why players are practicing, whether it's their physical exertion or whether it's the arc of their shot. There's a lot of technology going in the facility, and then also the state-of-the-art equipment for training. There's really nothing missing. I mean, we have everything there to help our players be as successful as possible. And I don't want to give away too many trade secrets, and we're working with a couple technology partners that on some of the things we're putting in there. But essentially, it's training equipment and technology geared just to basketball.
And there's also a kitchen within the facility with world-renowned chefs coming through. Would you say it's going to be one of the better places to eat in the Valley?
Well, it depends what you mean by better. I'm going to tell you it's going to be one of the healthier places to eat in the Valley because that's part of the key too.
Yes.
You know, so we're hoping our players will be able to get 2 meals a day in that facility, breakfast and lunch, you know, which we do now, you know, here at the arena. We cater the food in, and also maybe even give them some kind of cooking tips and suggestions on how to make things and do things in a healthy way. So.
All right, Robert. So one of the things that has really stood out to me about the Phoenix Suns and Mercury organization throughout the time of COVID-19 is how involved we have been within the community.
Right.
From delivering food to our most vulnerable members to donating to organizations who are also helping on the front lines. What are you most proud of about how we have been involved within that?
Well, I think, you know, in terms of the magnitude of the giving in the last year, over $12 million, but it's more than that. It's really the relationships we have within the community of the nonprofits so that we know which ones are the most effective and which ones can deliver the goods and services the best. I'm just proud that we've stepped up and tried to be a leader to help people, you know, starting with just basic food service. A lot of folks have been real disadvantaged during this because a lot of the hotels and restaurants have been closed, and they rely on the excess food from those places to be given. So we've been active just on the basic level of just trying to feed as many people as possible. We've also helped with first responders a lot in terms of providing PPE equipment. We've helped with the youth in terms of providing books for students and technology for students to take home to learn from. and things like that. So, it's just really been focused on touching the basic needs. And then obviously with some of the other businesses I'm involved in, it's trying to get financing out, through our bank. We did almost $2 billion of small business lending in the last 30 days. Trying to do whatever we can to just help the community. And, for me, it's always boiled down to, healthcare, employment, education, and safety. Those things, those are really the basics that everyone should have an opportunity for. And we try to continually, be there for the community, and that's kind of our obligation. And our entire organization really engages in that and believes in that. So that's great to watch too.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of our players step up and make an impact throughout this time. What does that speak, how much does that speak to those players' love and care for this Phoenix community?
It shows they embrace the community and they embrace their role in the community, as leaders. And so for them to take advantage of that, I think it's great. But also remember, a lot of our players came from places where some of these community services they took advantage of and they used growing up. And so now that they're in a position where they can give back, then it's great. The community needs as much help as possible. They'll take your money and they'll take your time. Either one or both. So, whatever you can give helps.
All right, we're going to take a quick break to give a little love to our sponsors over at muststopbullying.org. They offer a lot of great tips and tricks to help stop bullying and prevent bullying. So if you'd like to get more information, again, just head on over to muststopbullying.org. How important is it for you to have such a philanthropic backbone to your organization?
Well, I learned early, in life, the importance of that. My dad grew up in a very poor area in a poor family, a split family early. Couldn't afford to go to college, worked a number of jobs, worked at a gas station, worked in an auto parts company. And he used to always tell me the stories, and when you're growing up, you kind of always take them a little bit with a grain of salt. But there's one that kind of hit home to me when I was 18 that really kind of set the tone. And that was after my dad died, the superintendent of one of the school districts came to the house and wanted to know if we were going to continue buying the dresses and the suits for the kids that graduate from high school in Tucson that couldn't afford it. And we knew nothing about it. Myself, my mom, we didn't know what he was talking about. Well, my dad used to always say when he graduated high school, he was embarrassed because he didn't have a decent pair of shoes and he didn't have a suit to wear. And so he took it upon himself to purchase these for these kids that couldn't afford it and didn't tell us about it. And I was 18 when I heard that story, and ever since then, along with kind of guidance from my mom and help from my mom in terms of philanthropy, it taught me that it's really an obligation, and also taught me how to enjoy doing it. Philanthropy's been a very important part of my parents and a part of our family that my immediate family right now. It's a big part of who we are and what we do.
That is an amazing story. I appreciate you sharing that with us, and it leads us directly into our next few topics, which is allowing us to get to know you a little bit more on the personal side. So I know you mentioned being in Tucson, growing up in Arizona. What are some of your favorite memories as a young child or young adult in terms of watching the Phoenix Suns?
As a lot of people know, the original owners of the franchise lived in Tucson. At least two of them. And so occasionally when there were tickets, I would get to come up to some of the games. One of the owner's wife, once in a while, would let me go up with her in the car. I remember driving up, going to games. I remember going to one game where I bought a brand new, see, you're really young and I'm really old, but there weren't a lot of shoe options.
Okay.
You pretty much got the Keds or the PF Flyers, or the Chuck Taylors. And then one of the companies, I forgot who it was, came out with a new brand, and it had a little orange stripe on the side, and it was like the first thing that wasn't like all white. And I bought a pair, and I remember the first day I had that pair and came up to a game. And then later in life, actually, the same owners gave me 2 playoff tickets to go to a Suns Portland game when I'd first moved to Phoenix, and I invited my wife, and she blew me off for another date, and I didn't speak to her for a month. And then we started dating, got back together, and got married. We've been married for 20 some odd years, but that was another game that stood out. Stood out for a different reason.
That one is
but
probably
always a Phoenix Suns fan, and always a University of Arizona basketball fan too. My dad had built a hotel on campus, right off campus at the University of Arizona, and when Fred Snowden, who was the first African-American basketball coach for a major school, and when he first got to town, he stayed at the hotel. My dad introduced me to him, and we didn't have season tickets, and he said, hey, I got 5 new freshmen, they're coming into play, it's going to be exciting. And we bought tickets, and we went to games ever since, and my parents love the games, my mom loves the games. And so basketball was a big part of our kind of family experience, I would say. The other piece for me was I played tennis growing up. My dad played some tennis, so getting a chance to play tennis with him, I'd always wait for him to come home from work to see if he could play some tennis with me. We lived in a townhome project that had 2 tennis courts in the middle, so I'd always kind of sit home waiting for him, and about 2/3 of the time he'd be too tired to play, but 1/3 of the time he'd come out there and hit some balls and stuff.
How often were you able to beat Dad in a game of tennis?
I mean, it would kind of drive my mom nuts too, because my mom would kind of always want to kind of sympathize with me. I never beat my dad.
Never.
No, because as soon as I got good enough to beat him, he wouldn't play me anymore.
You know, all of our players tell us the
And so-
exact same story.
And so I probably got good enough to beat him when I was about 14 or 15, and he wouldn't play anymore. When I really kind of could beat him, he would psych me out, and, you know, I'd go home upset, and my mom would console me and yell at my dad. And my dad came up the hard way, and he fought his way for everything. And, you know, hopefully some of that passed on to me, and so I tend to be pretty competitive. But all people that are kind of in sports in one way or another tend to get there because they like the competitiveness of it.
Ain't that the truth? So
Yeah.
when did you decide that you wanted to own an NBA team? How did that kind of all come together?
It's not something I thought about for a long time, to be honest with you. I mean, I had some good fortune in California, and it was just an introductory meeting, I thought, with Commissioner Stern to let him know that if there ever was an opportunity for a new franchise in Las Vegas, that I would be interested. I went and talked to him about that. At the time, I had a pretty good banking presence in Vegas and was there a fair amount. And he said, you know, I don't think that's on the table right now, but it just so happens that the team in your own market just got put up for sale. And why don't you talk to this individual who's the broker that's selling the team? And so I did, and then met Jerry Colangelo a couple weeks later, and you know, we kind of shook hands on a deal maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that. So it happened a lot faster than I thought it was going to happen. It just kind of came together quick.
So what's your favorite part about being the managing partner and owner of the Phoenix Suns and Mercury?
Definitely going to watch the games, the excitement of the games. I would say for me, a lot of it has to do with trying to get good at something that I didn't start naturally good at. Mm-hmm. You know, so like I've been in banking and finance my whole life, and real estate, and most of everything I've done has been pretty successful. And now you get in a sport where, you know, not everybody wins every night. You know, half the teams win, half the teams lose. And so trying to figure out how to maneuver and outmaneuver and grow as an owner of the team has been something that's been of challenge to me. And I like challenges. You know, in some ways I look at it, you know, kind of approach it like a board game. Okay, what do you have to do, and what are the pieces, and how do you have to prove, and how do you have to get better? So for me, it's been a real energizer at this stage of my career to try to get this team back to where I want it to be. And I think we made a few steps the last few years, but there's a long way to go.
Okay, so outside of basketball, what are some of the things that you like to do for fun or entertainment?
I don't know, like most entrepreneurs, I guess you would say business has been your hobby. People always say, how do you balance things? And I would say, well, you know, you don't really have to balance things. You know, if you like business and that's what you do and that's what you're passionate about, and running companies sometimes is hard to do in a balanced life. So I'd start with the idea that I probably work more or think about work more. Don't really have a lot of free time, but one of the things I've got into over the last year is playing pickleball. You know, I used to play a lot of tennis.
I don't know what pickleball is.
Pickleball is probably halfway between table tennis and regular tennis.
Okay.
So it's played on a tennis court that's, the court's a quarter the size of a tennis court. It's got a net and a paddle and a ball. So I got a few guys I play with on a regular basis. I had a pretty good match last night with Larry Fitzgerald, Boris Diaw, and Elliot Kobo.
Nice. Who won?
We played over at Larry's house. We get games there a lot. We played a lot of different round robins games. Actually, Boris beat me 2 out of 3 games. Ellie just started. you know, the first time he went out, he didn't really play, but he got so good so fast, and he's so long and so quick. But it's a fun game, and if you play doubles, it's, you know, it's okay for a guy my age. But we've been having games over at Larry's house for a while with different people, and Boris happened to be in town, so it was kind of good to catch up with him yesterday. Watch him and Ellie play one-on-one last night against each other. I had to referee finally after a while because it almost turned into a fight. It was a combination of WWE wrestling and basketball.
Love it.
Boris kept trying to plow into him. You know, he probably had 75 pounds on him, and, you know, with the fouls and the this and the that, and half the yelling was in French, and I couldn't understand half of it. But anyway, it was a sight to be seen. But pickleball's been my sport, and then, you know, with the quarantine, I've got a chance to really engage a lot more with my kids. I have 3 sons that are in college. One just graduated. Actually, he just got his diploma today.
Nice.
Got 2 others. One finished his first year and second year. And so I've had a chance to spend a lot of time with them, which has kind of been nice. My older son is going to go work in finance in New York. And so I've got a chance to spend some time with him talking about his job and where he's going. My middle son is going to work in an internship this summer for a real estate development company here in Phoenix. So I've been spending some time with him talking about real estate. And then my youngest son will work here at the Suns in the analytics group, kind of working on the draft. So getting a chance to spend time with my 3 sons. My wife, who's in great shape, has kind of got me working out a lot. We did this workout called the Murph. You ever heard of it?
I have not.
Okay, it's named after a guy. We got a house in Coronado, which is a big Navy base area. It's where one of the SEAL teams works. There's 2 locations for SEAL teams. One's in Coronado. There was a SEAL team member by the name of Murphy who had this workout, and he passed away, so they called it the Murph. And I've been training with my son to do it now. I would say I kind of did more of a Murr than a Murph. But the real Murph, you put on a weight jacket, you run a mile on the beach, you do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and you run a mile back.
Yeah, that sounds pretty intense, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie. I
So-
mean, just the weight jacket and the mile on the beach alone.
Okay, well, I was last. As usual, my wife kicked my butt. But I did, let's see, I did no pull-ups because I don't know if I can do a pull-up.
Pull-ups are hard.
But I did 100, let's see, I did 100 push-ups and 200 squats. Ran a mile, 100 push-ups, 200 squats, ran back. So I've been kind of training with that. That's kind of one of the things we've been doing. So, you know, helping my kids with school and kind of their career path, and then working out. That's kind of what we've been doing this summer. And then my wife's been, you know, holding the fort down and doing a lot of cooking and things like that, which has been great.
Perfect.
After a 20-year hiatus. No, I'm just kidding. You have to cut that.
Nope, I'm leaving it in. I'm leaving it in.
She'll kill me. She's a great cook. She just doesn't do it very often, but she's been doing it the last 2 months.
I mean, I can relate. Who likes cooking?
She
Who likes
gets a
cooking?
gold star. She's been just doing a great job. We've all been together, and it's been good. You know, we can't get through a board game without a fight. There's always an argument over everything.
I mean, it sounds like most families I know.
Most families, yeah. So, yeah.
All right, so Robert, the last thing I have for you, and this one's kind of a funny one.
Yeah.
We have seen photos of you with an old school flip phone. So break it down for me. Why a flip phone instead of a new iPhone or Android or something of the sort, where a mini computer in your hand?
Yeah, I know. People make fun of that. Yeah.
I mean, I like it.
Kinda
It's
drives me-
vintage. It's nostalgic. Like,
Yeah,
who
it's
doesn't
not
love
really
a flip
so much
phone?
that. You know, here's the honest reason. The honest reason is I don't want to have a device on me that I can get on the internet and I can look at emails because it's too distracting. And for someone like me who has a little ADD, if I'm with people, I need to be with people. I can't be constantly looking at my phone, you know. And, you know, listen, the technology, these phones and everything are great. They do a lot of stuff. But they also sometimes can interfere with your ability to have one-on-one conversation and meetings.
My mom, and I'm sure a lot of moms out there, are constantly on my case about getting off my phone. So if I had an old school flip phone, I probably wouldn't be on it as much either.
Exactly. I mean, like dinner, are you able to sit through dinner without being on your phone?
I mean, I could if I wanted to, but
But you
because
don't.
it's right, because
Right.
it's there, it's just like, well, why
Exactly.
not
Well,
scroll
that's the same
through while
thing.
I'm
But
eating?
the thing
Yeah.
is, like, if I'm at dinner, I'd rather communicate with my family,
Yeah.
or if I'm having a business meeting, people want me there and present, listening and paying attention, which is hard for me to focus for a real long period of time. But if I have a device in front of me where it dings every time I get one of 300 or 400 emails a day,
Yep.
it's not good for me. So
It makes a lot of sense. And I love it. Personally, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I had a flip phone, and that thing was so much fun. And it feels like so fancy when you flip it and you answer a phone call, because it was
don't
like
know if
the
it's
first
fancy
thing.
or not,
Well,
but-
I mean, for me, it's like, it reminds me of my childhood where I'm like, oh yeah, I got a phone. I'm cool now. I'm grown. I've got a phone.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Robert, thank you so much for your
Okay.
time, for letting us get to know you a little bit more, and for some updates on things happening behind the scenes of the Phoenix
Yeah,
Suns
there's a lot
organization.
going on. Listen, we have 275 employees full-time here, and there's a lot of work taking place, getting ready for next season. And I think, the biggest thing is when the fans come back and see what this place looks like and how it helps them enjoy the game, I think they're going to be really happy about the renovation. I think they'll be very happy.
Agreed. We're all looking forward to it. I can tell you that
Yeah,
for sure.
I know. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks.
All right, guys.
Lindsay.
Well, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time on The Outlet. Another quick reminder that our friends over at muststopbullying.org offer a lot of great help to prevent and stop bullying. Parents and kids can address the issue of bullying in different ways, but we can all work together to help stop bullying. Again, visit muststopbullying.org for more.